All right, I'm excited to be with everybody today. My name is John Gretter. I'm the Vice President of the YASH Technologies SAP service line, and welcoming everybody to the YASH Technologies SAP Moving Forward, Safe and Secure with SAP EHS Solution Suite. There really isn't a more relevant topic that we can talk to the audience today about than the SAP EHS Solution Suite. When it comes to environment, health, and safety, that's obviously on the top of everybody's mind. Before I turn the webinar over to my colleague Yogesh, I'd like to share a really relevant story that I just experienced in the last day or so. The reason I'm coming to you virtually today like this through my phone is my wife and I are moving our middle daughter, Chloe, into college at the University of Georgia. And as we're learning in this new world that we're in, we can do these types of meetings and do these types of interactions virtually from just about anywhere. And I'm taking advantage of that today. But as part of moving her in, we took a moment just to do one more fun thing as a family. And we visited the Georgia Aquarium. And you're probably wondering yourself, what in the world is he talking about, the Georgia Aquarium? What's that have to do with SAP EHS and their solution suite? What it has to do with it is from the moment we arrived at the aquarium site, from the parking ramp being socially distanced, they had every other parking spot blocked off, so you could not get close to another car as you were entering or exiting. And then upon arriving into the site, thermal scans of every single guest to make sure that everybody was not running a temperature, everybody inside the environment was safe. They had masks, complimentary masks for everybody, hand sanitizer everywhere. Every line that you stood in was properly social distanced. And this made me start to become a little inquisitive. And so I started talking to some of the employees and asking, okay, you're doing all of these measures for the front of the house for your guests. What type of things are you doing for the employee side of it? And they just kind of chuckled and said, you would never believe the steps that we're taking behind the scenes to make everybody feel safe from an employee standpoint and make this work very, very effectively. And they said the most amazing thing is we're doing all of it in a way that makes it not take any more of our time. We are able to do all of this and get in and out of our job at the same rate as we were the entire time normally in our work life. And because of that, everybody is using these new safety precautions because there's no hindrance to their work-life balance at all. So as you go into today's webinar and listen to Yogesh and Mike, just think about the art of what's possible in your organization and how you can make your environment, health, and safety situation as seamless and easily adaptable by your team and ultimately your customers as you can. So I'm going to quit talking at this point in time. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Yogesh. He'll take the introductions from here and enjoy the webinar. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat feature, and we'll get to those questions either in the moment or at the end of today's webinar. So with that, nothing more said by me, Yogesh. I'm going to turn it over to you. Please take it from here, sir.
Thank you, John. Thanks for the introduction. And I think the real life scenario, which definitely set the right stage for us as we get into this webinar. Yep. So greetings, everyone. My name is Yogesh Nagpal. I head the Environment, Health, and Safety practice at YASH Technologies. With me, I have Mike Sanserato. Mike, why don't you quickly introduce yourself and take over the floor, and again, then we go from there.
Okay, thanks, Yogesh. Yes, this is Mike Sanserato. I'm the Solution Manager for the EHS applications at SAP. I've been working with these solutions now for over 20 years. And my main role at SAP is to drive our go-to-market strategy, solution strategy, and partner support. Okay, with that, Yogesh, if you want to go to the next slide. So today, for this presentation, what we're going to do first is I'm going to go through kind of just some general slides on the SAP EHS solution and the vision and the commitment around what SAP is doing. And then Yogesh will spend the bulk of the presentation on driving the details and the value around the solution that the YASH team has put together for Safe at Work. And then we'll close up with some kind of just some slides around our partnership and how we're working together going forward. Okay, next slide. So first thing, just to kind of highlight the history of these solutions, SAP has been working on these topics and I'd say a broader EHS set of topics for about 25 years. We focused first on the product safety and chemical tracking processes, and then through the years started focus more on the operational pieces. And starting in, I'd say about 2011, there was a complete renovation of the products, and some of the functionality that Yogesh will show today was based on some of the development done in that initial renovation. Currently, we've moved everything into our latest ERP platform, which is called S4HANA, and we're leveraging those technologies and the user experience and things like that within that platform to its full extent. Next slide. All right. And again, that platform, you see some maybe further details here. So the EHS processes, the EHS applications, all are part of the digital core of the S4HANA platform, which drives what we call the intelligent enterprise. And that's a group of platform technologies, products, database technology, and so forth that puts this all together in an intelligent fashion and drives intelligent processes. And you see there on the right, in this time where you want a reliable system, you want a system that's secure, that complies with privacy laws and things like that, that where all the data is available in real time as the situation is changing rather quickly. All of this is, say, in the nature of our S4HANA platform. And again, EHS kind of leverages all of that. You see there on the right-hand side of the slide. Enterprise-wide analytics that are shown in real time, enterprise-wide workflows, a consistent mobile app architecture across the enterprise to drive data from the shop floor, data privacy compliance solutions, and then you see a few other aspects there as well. Next slide. And it's from a solution standpoint, what we're trying to do with the EHS products and solutions, our objective at this point is really to look at the EHS stakeholders, look at the EHS function within companies, and make sure that they are interacting with the rest of the enterprise, make sure that they are leveraging information and insight that's coming from the rest of the enterprise, and then kind of enabling them to be a part of the digital transformation that's happening in their company. And we do that through the couple aspects, a couple specific objectives that we have. One is to drive kind of a platform approach, where whether it's within the EHS processes or the EHS department at a company, certain things, nothing really exists in a silo, especially now in this kind of new environment, this new world. HR needs to talk to EHS, safety needs to talk to environmental, safety needs to talk to the facilities managers and the operations folks and asset management processes. So overall, we want to drive an approach that leverages a broader set of functionalities for more gain. Another piece is around risk reduction. The idea being that both on an IT level and an operational level, a stable system that's fully integrated provides a reduction in costs and reduction in various risks that those departments have to deal with. Integration, obviously, being able to leverage data and insight from all parts of the enterprise directly and in real time can help the EHS stakeholders move forward. Intelligence, on top of the base transactions of things like recording incidents and tracking exposure hazards and things like that. We want to leverage all of that integrated platform to pull out even more intelligent insight, more predictive scenarios, things like that. And then finally, long-term dependability. With SAP, we've been at this game for, I guess, overall it's been 40 years, 25 in the EHS space. And SAP's committed now to driving and maintaining the solutions as they are today, at least for the next 20 years. So we want to make sure that with our customer base, that dependability really matters, because you're putting your entire company on a system, and you want to make sure that it's stable and reliable and and available over time. Okay, next slide. And just again, maybe provide some. Oh, we got some background noise there. Okay.
Hey, Mike, it's actually just John. We had a viewer already chime in with a question that's relevant where we're at right now. Okay. And for either you or Yogesh, feel free to jump in and answer it. But the question came in as, if we want to roll out this solution, can we add or update this with additional functionalities later on?
Yes, and we can talk about some of that. In fact, the solution that YASH has put together is a perfect example of that, where they've taken the base solution that I manage within SAP and added content and enhancements and things like that to put together a true business solution. And any project that you see where SAP EHS is implemented, there's ways to augment the code, and it's kind of protected. You're not editing source code. You kind of have your own piece of, let's say, custom code that can be put in. There's a very robust set of configuration, let's say, options and tables and entries that can be made to tailor the process to your exact needs, let's say, and your exact region. Obviously, there's, for some of these processes, there's local requirements as well as global requirements, and so we want a system that is globally scalable and globally relevant. But you also need to be able to go into it, where each facility that you have or each department that you have could be in different regions. You have to handle those requirements as well. And so to do that, you have to, the system needs to be able to kind of be enhanced as needed and configured as needed to support all that.
So if I'm getting you right here, Mike, right out of the box, it's globally usable, but there is that tailoring that's available to make it usable specifically for the client's industry or the client's own company.
Yes, exactly. And that's the nature of all SAP applications. The platform that we're on, I mentioned the S4HANA Platform is a globally scalable. It's intended to manage, global processes, global enterprises, and it's engineered that way, and we take advantage of that platform for the EHS processes.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike.
Yep. All right, so just a couple other comments here. I kind of touched on a lot of this already, but when we think about how EHS or SAP EHS can kind of provide value to the market, we look at a little bit of a continuum where if we start on the left, we have customers, you have maybe situations where some of the EHS processes may be handled outside of the main systems, could be on spreadsheets, other point solutions. It's not very well integrated in any fashion. That's, let's say, the baseline situation. From there, the first step would be to look at data integration, again, which we provide as standard. The idea being that, okay, to kind of augment the EHS processes, to improve them, we can pull in HR person data directly. We can pull in asset and equipment data directly, financial cost centers and things like that. Other sources of truth that are then directly available to the EHS process to kind of make sure that whatever's being done within EHS is kind of aligned with the rest of the operations and the enterprise. And also it helps with data entry and things like that at a user level. The next step would be the process integration. So once you have data flowing back and forth between these areas, there's also a way to drive workflows and other communication. A good example is when, let's say, you have a corrective action that's been identified or assigned from an incident. So you have to fix a piece of equipment based on an incident that occurred. Well, the EHS department may not fix that equipment directly. They're going to have the maintenance personnel within the facility do that. And so within the software, we can drive, work notifications and those things to get the right stakeholders to do that work. And that's, again, at a process level to put all that together and make sure things are getting done. The next step would be analytics. And again, you're now, leveraging all that integration, all the data from around the enterprise to drive predictive scenarios and things like that. And then finally, you get to the point where the EHS functions are fully embedded within the enterprise at both, shop floor to top floor, essentially. You've got intelligence, you have better situational awareness at all levels. You have data that's, it's an EHS relevant information that is now available, at all levels, at all times, and it's essentially ubiquitous. And then finally, there's, through some of this, we can start to drive some autonomy in the processes and make them more efficient and so forth. So we feel that's kind of like the holy grail that we are moving towards with our solution strategy. All right, next slide. All right, we're going to just touch on the portfolio a little bit overall, just specifically to set the stage for Yogesh's overview of the YASH solution. So here, this is the overall portfolio for EHS at the moment at SAP. Left-hand side, you see 5 products that can be sold and implemented all a la carte. There's no commercial dependencies between them. There's no technical dependencies between them. And then the middle there is kind of like the capabilities within each product. Incident management is kind of self-explanatory. Track all types of incidents. And then what we call safety observations is more the proactive piece where you can enable, theoretically your entire workforce. You give them a mobile app and they can, highlight any hazardous conditions or hazardous acts that they see in the workplace. And then that can be reported into the main system. And then, the appropriate workflows and notifications are made from there. Health and safety is a little bit broader. There's a chemical management process to just manage whatever's coming on site and being stored on site. If you have to deal with, chemical storage, there's a process for that. And then that data can be used along with other data around a general operational risk assessment model that drives some industrial hygiene steps and also occupational health. Environment management, 2 main focal points there. One is around permit compliance. If you're operating a facility, you may or may not have a complex permit. From there, all those requirements can be documented, and then all the tasks can be executed to ensure compliance. And then there's an emissions management component that has equations for all the greenhouse gas emission equations and also like hazardous air pollutants, things like that. Management of change drives a basic life cycle for the MOC process where change requests are submitted, and then there's an approval process along with tracking all the actions for driving that change. And then finally, maintenance safety, which is a little more focused on the plant maintenance side. There's a permit to work, kind of a work clearance process supported there. All of these capabilities are integrated with our HR applications at SAP and also asset management processes. Okay. Next, final statement there on the right-hand side. You see they all share similar analytics tools. They all share similar task management tools. So there's some consistency across the board there. And what's highlighted are we'll say the 5 components or let's say capabilities that are relevant to the Safe at Work solution that we're going to talk about today. All right, next slide. All right, just not going to dwell on this too much, again, just in the interest of time. We look at stakeholder benefits when we try to understand what we're doing with our solutions and where we need to go. We start to break that up into groups of stakeholders, sometimes around the corporate level, then the practitioner level, and then operations or shop floor. And you see some of the bullet points there. I won't go through every one, but on the corporate level, we try to drive obviously visibility and situational awareness and decision support. At that level, the practitioner is really where you're enabling them across the full end-to-end processes for EHS and make sure they have all the tools and all the data they need to drive those processes. And at the shop floor level, it's around communication to the workers around what hazards are there apparent in the workforce, what's being done to keep them safe, what they can do to provide information up through the chain for the enterprise to be able to react to it and so forth. So, next slide.
Hey, Mike and Yogesh here. This is John again. And just listening to you right now, if I'm putting myself in the audience's shoes, I'm going to want to selfishly pick your brains right now and find out the companies, the clients that you're working with that are doing this right. When you look at it, look at their enterprise and say, this company has it figured out. They're taking advantage of this SAP solution in a very positive way. What are some of those differentiators that you can share with the audience as a little bit of a cheat sheet that they can look at to help implement this in a best practice type of situation?
Okay, so one company, and I don't know if I can maybe say the name, but it's a utility in the southern U.S. region. What they did, I mentioned the safety observations as one of the capabilities for incidents, and this is not related necessarily to the specific safe at work solution that we're going to talk about here, but it's a good example of what companies have been able to do. They've taken the safety observation component or object. They've enabled all the workers out in the field to drive data into the system by, again, highlighting any hazardous acts or any issues before they become incidents. And once they did that, after about 18 months, I think they had 150,000 observations. And then they used all that data to then, make changes, do corrective actions, understand, new risks that had been kind of identified. Before they even got to actual incident management, they had reduced their incident rates by like 38%. And I think their DART rate was down by like 50%. And it was all just from doing some proactive work up front with one very specific part of EHS. So I always kind of use that as one key example of what's been done.
So to put it into an analogy format, it sounds like instead of fishing with just a single line, they cast a net out using all of their employees to gather data, and that allowed them to bring in bulk data and become far more efficient with that collection, and then use that data to make the right decisions going forward.
Yeah, and it ended up being a culture change, which is definitely relevant to the safe at work solution and the COVID-19 situation. They basically had a kind of a proactive safety culture that was created by enabling these workers to kind of highlight these issues, and then the workers saw the results because they saw the incident rates going down. They saw the impact of kind of being proactive, right, and driving the data into the central system. So.
Yeah,
okay.
And
that's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
About in one of the case study, John, we have a case study in which we are towards the end of the slide deck, where we'll talk about that how this solution, which was implemented across to a large global enterprise, has really resulted into the value benefits.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't want to steal your guys' thunder on that one.
Well, it's a good plug. It's a good plug. Now nobody will drop off of the webinar. Now they know they need to stay till the end to get that good stuff, those case studies.
Yep. So yeah, with that, I'll speed up here a little bit. I've been maybe even talking too much. So a couple of just comments around integration. Again, similar to what I talked about with the stakeholder benefits, we start to group our integration view into three main areas: process integration, data integration, and reporting. And we leverage the SAP platform to kind of drive all this. You see that when the process standpoint, you're highlighting or enabling the handoffs and the triggers between departments, between teams, between process steps, and so forth. At the data level, you're again pulling data in from sources of truth like HR person records or financial records and things like that. And then finally, at the reporting level, you're trying to drive a consistent set of tools, a consistent maybe authorization model where, if certain people are only allowed to report on certain things, we kind of leverage all that from our standard authorization concepts in SAP. We don't have to recreate those in another reporting tool. And everybody's using the same sources of truth from the central hierarchy. So we think that is also a benefit to driving better, roll-up reporting and more accurate reporting overall with that integration. So next slide. I think that might be my last slide. Yeah, so now YOGESH is going to take over. We're going to drive the overview of the solution, but I think we wanted to do a poll. There's going to be a survey that's brought up for the audience before we get into that. You see there again, just a basic question. If you can kind of give us some indication of how you're currently managing these operations today in your organization or your enterprise, just let us know if you're willing to go ahead and answer that.
Fantastic.
And with that, YOGESH, I will turn it over to you. Any other? Well, I guess we can save some questions for the end as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. So that was really, really great, that kind of introduction and setting the right stage, telling them that SAP is definitely aligned with the industry challenges. So nobody was forcing a COVID situation, but the way SAP as an organization and a solution has really ramped up to meet my current business requirement really tells the commitment and our dedication towards bringing the best of the class to my customers, to my partners. Moving forward, so this slide now, from now on, I will go more into the situation that we all have been in, again, how SAP has transformed and again brought in the innovative solution and products to meet the current pandemic situation and be as in front of the race. So some of the operational challenges which we all are foreseeing nowadays is the hazard of kind of being infected. Nobody is really kind of comfortable in stepping out of their home and doing anything which we used to do earlier. So everything is like a new normal for me. When I go into a Walmart, I really see that I have my gloves on, I do kind of sanitize myself, I put my mask on just to ensure that I don't get infected. So the biohazard which we assume are present there is impacting my day-to-day life. You never know when you wanted to come back to work, you never know the other person who is coming, even if he looks perfectly healthy and hale, whether he is actually healthy or not. You never know that whether this person is bringing an infection to the workplace, which may impact not only himself, but a larger community at your workplace. So we definitely need certain kind of procedures, certain efficiencies to make sure that these things are addressed. Now with this the kind of the way the scale the things are shaping up, the sanitizers, the PPEs, even the tools. One of our tool manufacturer partner has really seen an update of the tools and technology, the kind of equipment which they are using. So nobody wants to share their screwdrivers or the kind of the industrial tool which they are using at their workplace. So definitely there is a shortage of those PPEs. So many changes. Now, when we talk about all these changes, what is needed is the business has to rethink and redesign. Rethink about the capacity planning. The work which you used to get done with the 10 people today, probably you may not get all the 10 people back to work. You may have to scatter them into different shifts, which means that you have to plan your workforce, you have to plan your capacity planning, and also with respect to that, the volume, the productivity outcome. All those has to be planned in a way that you are able to provide a safe working environment to your workforce, which basically calls for a business continuity. Everybody is talking about wave 2 or wave 3. The only way we can come out of this and we can kind of have a business continuity is when we have the right kind of procedures and the kind of guidelines in place. And that's where somehow when we say that how SAP can help here, that's where you see Mike has already emphasized that nowadays in current scenario, being healthy, being safe is not an EHS topic anymore. HR, facilities, operation, this is a circular loop. This is a 360-degree viewpoint where everybody is looking forward to get engaged and make sure that we are providing a healthy and safe workplace to my employees, and hence providing the uninterrupted services to my customers. So we talk about confidence of workers, that how we are able to ensure that all the risks which are present here are mitigated, creating the digital leveraging the digital technologies and mobile operations to ensure there are minimum touch points and minimum contacts. How to ensure that when you brought your 10,000 people back to work, did you take enough precautionary measures? How did you document it? How did you have a auditable system in place? SAP is all there and provide you that auditable, traceable system to provide you a framework which is foolproof to meet many of these compliance requirements as well. And definitely, I think one of the first question from one of my audience was about the scalability. Yes, with this solution, we may start with my situation, my current situation, but this entire solution can be scaled up to give you a holistic viewpoint, which Mike just talked about, going from an incident management to a leading indicator about observations. How do observation impact the injuries? How do my risk assessment create the kind of a safe working environment? Breakdown into a machine can be kind of create a scenario for a predictive maintenance and understand where exactly are the challenges which has to be taken care. Again, talking about the 360-degree viewpoint, Mike used a fantastic term called shop floor to top floor, a digital shop floor, a truly kind of engagement in which you can see what's happening with the right visibility and decision making. Now, talking about that, we arrived at this so-called simplified 8-step process. I think many of you would be able to again see a similarity between what you would foresee if you would have been given a chart and a white paper to see how do you think the people can come back, or how the experts are bringing their operations back to work. I think some of these steps definitely would fall into your block diagram as well. First and foremost is that we all would definitely want that when I'm sitting at my home for past 3 months working from home remotely, whether I'm healthy and hale, whether I'm safe, have I not really been kind of say infected, and if I would have been infected, now I am pretty much in good healthy condition and can be brought back to work. So that's where the entire process starts. Selecting a group of people who are critical to business, whom we want to be available in my office tomorrow, to make sure that we send them checklists, we collect their health statistics, and based upon that analyze how many of this list truly can be brought to work because of their availability, because of their health condition, because of my preparedness towards getting them back to work. Many questions have to be answered and understood before I actually get them back to operation. Then it doesn't end here. In fact, this is the entire start of the process, because once you have identified those 200 people who are going to join me on 1st of September, now I have to plan their online on-site health surveillance with their thermal detection, with their PPE training, giving them the heads up, making sure that the workplace are redesigned. When I went to my office day before yesterday, because of the power outage, I had to go to my office to access to internet. I saw that every other chair, there is a kind of a chair block, which is kind of have been marked not to sit. So those kind of arrangement has to be made, which means that I cannot accommodate the same number of people which I used to do it earlier. So all those planning has to go in for the health surveillance, for the work shift arrangement, and then probably the work people will be able to come back. But then also there has to be an effective mechanism of reporting any deviation or illness, identifying various hazards, create a quick kind of emergency situation and a mechanism so that you can address, you can evacuate the building, you can get the people into an isolation, you can kind of a lot of things which get into the risk assessment and the hazard assessment, and finally doing various audits and inspection. All these audits which used to have the toolbox talks, the kind of shift handovers, all those things are now seemingly to be happening online, remote. So the new way of working, the new thought process which will get the everything getting digital has to be aligned. And finally, a lot of tasks which probably were used to happen by meeting the people, by talking to them, by fixing on the floor. It is much better that we do it way in advance. So you see the entire cycle. We are trying to reduce the touch points where human contacts is needed. We are trying to leverage technology, the digital technology as much as possible, and hence try to build a safe workplace by using the analytics, by using the trends, and by using various applications and tools. Next, I go into some of the kind of screenshots. So when I talked about the pre-joining health checklist, this is how the screen will look like. Now, the standard SAP system, which has been your friend for years, and rather I'll say the right word would be decades, has been customized, has been tailored to meet this requirement. Now, after we select a set group of people, the system can trigger this kind of an on-site or online health surveillance checklist, which is a mandatory requirement for anybody who would like to join back office. Now, the form has been automated, and it can actually give you a prompt response that yes, you can come and join the office, or based upon your health condition, the previous health condition and the current health situation, if you probably would have you show some symptoms, it will tell you that you have to take these precautionary measures, come to office, or wait for some more time, so till you get more updates. And the same data goes back into SAP and helps you into the capacity planning. Pretty much the level 1 screening or level 1, I think, filtration, which based upon the current health status can be done digitally by using this technology, and helps us, the HR, EHS, facility, and operation team, know how many people are coming back to work. Now, the next step, as I talked about, is more about reporting. So using the mobile incident reporting, by using the mobile devices, we can report any deviation, which can trigger the workflows to a larger group of people. earlier when this application which was being used more for near miss and incident, now this can be used for any reporting any deviations, which means it can trigger an alarm to an occupational health specialist who is on site, to an HR person, to a facility guy, and anybody who should be knowing about any kind of deviation at the workflows. We can create different tasks. We can have the recommendation created. So a person who seems susceptible can probably undergo a medical test. The test all can be updated into the system, and hence the entire the audit trail is created into the system digitally to make sure that entire process and entire operations is managed within the system itself. Talk about risk assessment. So what are the risks present here at a particular workplace because of their current work structure, because of the location, architecture, as well as various other risks and hazards which are present. We will identify the initial risk. We can mention that what is the risk exposure, how many people who, if they are located at a place, will create the risk score of what. So if the risk score is high, we will take all the necessary measures to bring the risk score at a low level. And that's where I talk about the power of documentation and integration, again, to identify the contract tracing, risk exposure, at creating the corrective action and task, and generating various summary reports. Everybody would like to know that how safe their operation is. In fact, even to a layman who is unfamiliar and not very kind of a prompt with the EHS terminology, is talking about safety, talking about inspections, talking about checklist. So those all things probably can be well taken care by this so-called the customized program or the top-up program which has been created on top of standard SAP. Does it end here? Talk about inspections. Talk about.
Hey, Yogesh, this is John. I was waiting for you to get through that slide. We had another question come in from another one of our audience members, and I knew it was going to be relevant for where you were right there. And the question is, they already have some tools for managing their dashboard, but they want to know if our solution can be integrated with their tool and help provide data analysis.
Absolutely. This SAP system provides an open architecture framework, so we can take the data out and again use the data cubes to use the analytic framework you use. We have created dashboards on Tableau, we have created dashboard on ClickView or the Power BI. However, mentioning that SAP itself provides a very strong and very stable the digital analytics tool and the dashboard which are directly integrated. So as an organization, if you have a mandate to use some other analytical tool, absolutely there's a possibility, again, as I said, because of the open architecture. But again, we definitely would like to leverage what we have available in SAP as best as possible.
Thanks, Yogesh. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So I talked about audits. So all the audits and inspection, you see that we have created a quick audit questionnaire here, which says that have your supervisor been adequately trained? Have you been given guidelines on the training and the cleanliness and hygiene? Have you worked? Is your workstation being adequately sanitized every time? Again, after the end of the work. So those are some of the quick checklists which let us know and your employees know the safety score, the inspection checklist and results, and the areas which need to be focused upon. And again, putting everything into a digital framework not only give you an audit trail, as I mentioned earlier, but also gives a confidence and a morale boost to me that my organization and the systems over there do ensure that I am being well taken care. And that's pretty much key in today's world, when the most important thing which I need today is a confidence from my workplace, is a confidence to me that when I step out of my home, I am safe. It is not only the sweet home which keeps me safe, the world outside is also safer and I can get back to work. These are some of the examples of dashboards which you see. I think a couple of months before, the people were talking about dashboards of which talks about the score, how many people are impacted, how many sites probably need to kind of ramp up with their operation. But now I think that the metrics are changing. How many people came back? How many percentage of my workforce I'm able to get back to work? I think the score is changing. Pretty much the message over here is the systems are, again, the data which goes in can definitely be transformed, and we can have these smart analytics and intelligent dashboards which helps you into quick decision making, knowing the efficiencies and the areas which need to be focused upon from this data and from this statistics. I think that the time really doesn't permit me to go into the dashboard, but I think I'll quickly cover a couple of other things which are interesting in the case study. But again, the whole solution is available on S4HANA Platform, can run you through the dashboard and quickly analytics. And again, this is a complete storyline. Definitely, if anybody of you feel that we need to spend some time, we can have a separate discussion and can go into the detailed demonstration, or a quick 15-20 minutes conversation to run you through the entire solution screens and the functionality. Now, again, I think these are some of the questions which many of you would be thinking now, that yes, this solution covers a lot of what we need, but how fast, how best, and how effectively it can be implemented. So this solution is available and packaged under the name, under the umbrella called Safe at Work. Again, YASH has been working together with SAP for decades now, but on this solution, I think we had our first conversation in the month of February, I think January late, when there was an outburst in China, and we started thinking that can it be kind of help my Chinese customers, but nobody knew that it would be such a pandemic. But yes, today, as you see, is a pre-packaged solution leveraging the standard EHS best practices. The solution remains the same. It's not a product by its own by YASH Technologies. It's a same SAP solution, but we have packaged it to give you something which is valuable, which is like quick. And as you see, quick to deploy, and you'll see in the coming slide. This has been definitely built and has been validated by leading industry experts who have vetted this procedures and the application design with us. And absolutely, again, we can integrate with your S4. If you're on ECC, it can still work with yourself. I'm sure that this would have been some question in some of my audience mind, and this would have been, I'm trying to address it earlier on itself, that if you are on ECC, the system can still work, which means that we can put it onto a cloud system, and it can integrate with your HR master, my key components which need to feed in at the data, and can generate reports for yourself. Not only this, if you are not on SAP, which we definitely want all of you should be on someday, that's I think the ERP for manufacturing, and ERP for, if I'm not sure if I'm calling it wrong, but yes, it's the ERP of choice for all industries today. So we can integrate with the other ERP as well. In fact, in my case study, which I'll be talking about, the whole operations has, I think, 7 different ERPs, but one common EHS system which connects to all 7 ERPs, all 45 locations, with 24,000 people getting the data and results from that one single instance of EHS. Yes, I think some of the facts and figures which probably make a clear differentiator over here. This entire package can be implemented within 10 weeks of time frame. We have kind of packaged it into such a tight framework that, again, it's more about plug and play. We just need some certain data interfaces, certain elements from you, certain master data, again, things, and then most of the business processes, I'm sure it remains common from company A to company B, industry A to industry Y to industry Z, because everybody probably wants to focus on getting the people back to work, doing these timely periodic inspections, having the health data being checked at every time or maybe every defined frequency with the temperature sensing machines and giving you timely alerts, having a strong mechanism to ensure that the data and information flows again as quickly as possible to all the necessary stakeholders, and finally making sure that the workplace and the risks are adequately being taken care. Those building blocks will not change. Yeah, some procedures and couple of steps here and there may make a difference, but pretty much the whole framework can be implemented into the 10-week time frame. And you see the number on the top right left corner as well. That's pretty much, I think, with SAP we have been working on this, and we were trying to make it again as simple and as acceptable to many of my enterprise, you being an SME segment or into the large enterprise, to make sure that we are able to provide you what you need and leverage best of the technology from best of the ERP and the solution provider here. Now, if I have to summarize everything what I just talked about, I think this slides talk about it. I'll not go point by point, but I'll probably like to say that with this solution, you get what you need to get your people back. One, to make sure that you are well into the business with right business continuity plan in place, because it is not only getting back the people. A lot of it actually goes, how do you handle this situation? This pandemic has actually made us learn a couple of things. One, can I work remotely? Can I actually be at my home and be equally productive the way I was before? Two, that if there is a business, nobody has planned for this business continuity. In this pandemic situation, we all have to come back. We all have to kind of say bounce back and be on track again with the best of the, I think, leveraging the technology. Nothing again, talk about the shares that the shares of the IT companies, is again the digital technology companies, which have basically kind of say roaring into this pandemic situation, because everybody understood the power of being digital, being innovative, being kind of say upbeat and kind of say stand tall. Leverage the technology to its best. The solutions are there, partners are definitely there, and we can leverage. At this point of time, you may again see a poll question, which probably will ask you that with this last 15 minutes of introduction on the solution which you saw, how do you feel that this solution can meet to the pandemic situation? I think people like yourself has helped us reach us to this stage where this solution is available and being implemented at many partners. Give us your thoughts so that we understand that what are the other areas which can be improvised into it. I go into my last section again, which talks quickly about our partnership and our work which we have been doing. I'm sure that many of you know YASH by now, but YASH, at this, I would like to quickly introduce. We are a IT global service provider company, 25 years into the existence, with 6,000 people on board, pretty much spread across globally. We have around 40 campuses globally, so we can support you in China, we can support you in Malaysia, we have offices in Europe. We definitely have our strong footprints in US with around 14 or 15 different offices, and a large development center in India. So pretty much a global company. Again, you see across the industries we have our footprints and our presence. Our core focus industries I have mentioned below: life sciences, chemicals, energy, and manufacturing, which are our core manufacturing. At this point of time, we are partnered with almost 450 plus companies. We are supporting them day to day on their ERP, on their IT applications, and their infrastructure support. Coming from my organization to SAP, this is my SAP slide. You see that on top right hand side, out of my 6,000 people, half of my company runs on SAP with almost 3,000 people on SAP, which makes us a differentiated partner to SAP for any kind of a project implementation, support, and enhancement work. With this 3,000 dedicated and aligned people, focused competency on SAP, we are way better than any of our competition, I like to say, because we bring the best of the class, whether it is about intelligent technologies, enterprise digital core, or the niche solution like EHS, what we are talking about today. We are definitely up against anything. These are our key differentiators into the EHS space. We started our EHS operations in year 2000, almost like 20 years back, when we started working with Dow and Chemtura, two big large chemical companies, and that's where we partnered with SAP. But there was no looking back. Today, we are one of the most respected partner into the SAP EHS space as a partner, almost walking hand in hand with the technology advancements, building new products. This Safe at Work is just one other example. We built in InReach when this word was hit in 2007 to 2010 timeframe, when European Union came back with new regulation called REACH. We helped, I think, almost like 50 plus companies in registering their products, defining their program for that, the entire REACH program, identifying the substances of very high concern, and then aligning their entire product portfolio towards registration framework. Pretty much a long-standing competency where people come from all different industry backgrounds, domain areas, and to bring you value of the industrial experience and the kind of technology experience which we bring on board. This is the case study which I was talking about. I know that, John, you will be looking at me to finish this quickly. I'll not take more than a couple of more minutes. I think this is very important. Since I was mentioning about this case study here, so this is a customer which has around, as I said, 25,000 people all spread across 40 sites in 10 different countries. So they chose to implement SAP Environment Health and Safety Solution. And again, I'll not go line by line item. Some of you would be reading through it. Let me again quickly bring out what are the benefits which they probably would have got. Their industry average says that they probably should be around close to 1 injury per 100 employees in a year, in a recordable year. With this solution, we are able to bring down the reportable injuries by 15% in the first year of the solution implementation. Yes, you're right, you're hearing it right. The number of injuries reported in 2018 versus the number of reportable injuries reported in 19 were 15% down. Put any number which you would like to, although there cannot be a number which you can put to a risk of a life, but if you would like to put any number for the statistic purpose, multiplied by 15%, that's what is the ROI which you would have got on this solution in the first year of itself. We have actually created this, again, most of the global companies know the value of globalization and then the merger and acquisition. When we started working on it, we were around 36 plants. We moved to 44 plants, and then we kind of say closed down operations and again optimized our operation and our 40 plants now with this company. So the way we grew, the way we scaled up, how the same processes were implemented in an upcoming plant. A new plant has been taken in Israel. How quickly we can bring that plant on the same global procedure and standardized operation is something. Within 2 weeks of time, this SAP EHS, incident management, risk assessment, environment management, which was capturing all the details, were implemented in that new location. Last but not the least, we probably could get, as I think Mike, you mentioned in the other utilities companies as well, we got almost 350% increase in the safety observation, and we call it as the negative safety observation, where some correction is needed, but also a lot of positive observation, because we wanted to build a culture, behavioral safety concept, rather than more of a reactive incident management approach. So moving from kind of a lagging indicator to a leading indicator stage, where the observation let me know what has to be done next to avoid any kind of the incident in the situation. Last but not the least, even for the environmental parameters, with this new application, with this application on board, now we are able to see that natural gas consumption in Europe is far better than what we do into Asia Pacific, and hence can be focused upon. Hazardous waste which is generated into my South America sites is more than what we see into the North America sites, where the recycling is better and we are able to utilize so-called the safer and the greener energy. I think those analytics let you know and give you a trigger to optimize and you be a world-class organization. One of the, I think the philosophy or the tagline which this company is calling it is as safer together and being the best in the class on EHS and bringing a sustainable solution. With that, I think I will kind of try to end this is my last slide, John. I would quickly like to introduce our partnership with SAP. As I mentioned, we are working for the past 20 years. When my first engagement started with SAP with Dow Chemicals in 2001, but definitely with this long partnership, we are globally working. This webinar, if you would have been following us on social media, this is the 5th webinar in its sequence when we started from Asia, Australia, New Zealand, came to Asia Pacific, and then moved to UK, and now in US. Many things I probably can talk about, but definitely a true powerhouse with respect to the digital manufacturing, supply chain, and safety solution. Mike, I'm not sure if you would like to quickly add something here before we.
I was just going to echo some of what you said there, and just again from my perspective as solution manager for the EHS products. One of my jobs is to kind of drive our ecosystem of partners and support them and things like that. And I feel that the YASH team is definitely when I look at what they've done with this solution and over some of the you mentioned the one project there and some of the other work they've done, they've definitely become a significant partner here overall to help us move our solutions forward in the market. So just wanted to kind of provide that comment.
Thank you, Mike. So I think we are all open for questions. Mike, John, I'm sorry I gave a little less time for the question answer. Definitely, we'll be quick, and as you mentioned that in spite of taking 30 seconds, we'll be taking 15 seconds, but more questions.
Well, let me do a favor for you here, Yogesh. We've had 3 or 4 questions that are very similar, so let's just address this one area as a whole, and it will go right to the heart of those questions. As we know, the business climate is challenging right now from a budget standpoint and managing revenue to expenses. And we've had some questions and some comments from the guests that they value the EHS solution. They want to look at the EHS solution specifically to what SAP and YASH can do, but they are budget conscious because they don't have that expendable budget that they normally might have at this point in time of the year. So they're asking, what are some ways that they can look at implementing this at the same time as holding fiscal responsibility as a key driver in developing this solution?
Mm-hmm. One thing I would say is, as we talked about some of the capabilities early on, the overall scope, that drives, some risk assessment work. I think that you could probably segment out the risk assessment part first and kind of focus on that. Obviously, before you get into all the plans around risk reduction, you have to kind of assess risk first, right? And so the fact that the products themselves are all kind of purchased and implemented a la carte, and that with this solution overall, you can just focus on that config step. I would look to that first and say, hey, if budgets are kind of constrained, where do we get the most value? I think the risk assessment process is where right now you get the most value. And that's what we've kind of seen with some customers we talked to, where they're like, all right, the testing, tracking the testing, tracking the infections themselves, they may have some mechanisms already to do that. Some of it's even outside their system. But the risk assessments based on their jobs, their locations, facility types, things like that, they need something around that. They need a better way to drive that part of the response. So that's where I would go first.
Yogesh, anything to add from your stance or your viewpoint?
I'll say that this situation, I think, as Mike rightly mentioned, we can definitely. So this solution is optimized to give you what you need to come out of this situation. But we can always prioritize some pieces out of it. But more important is that, again, we really wanted to be a true partner to each other. We understand the budget constraint, we understand the global market and the financial crisis, which probably is looming around the world because of the various pandemic situation. Let us kind of talk, let us connect further and understand how we can actually become the true partner to yourself today, so that our engagement doesn't end here, it actually starts here and we are able to take it much further longer down the lane.
Perfect, Yogesh and Mike. I appreciate the insight you have around the budgets. And with that, we're less than a minute away from the top of the hour, and that's what we had allotted for today's webinar. I'd just like to take a moment again, thank both of you for your time and educating the audience on the YASH and SAP partnership, and really what that SAP EHS solution can do, as it is top of mind, I'm sure, to everybody right now, is how can we keep our team safe, how can we keep our customers safe, and navigate the waters as well as possible as we go through the Q3 and Q4, and hopefully start to get back to some more normalcy in 2021. So with that, thank everybody for joining us today, and look forward to taking next steps. And feel free to reach out to Yogesh, Mike, or myself, and we can continue the conversation on a one-on-one basis. Thanks everybody, and have a great rest of your week.